We're calling this, again, long-term coaching, but that's just kind of for comparison's sake. The coaching that I do can range from 6 weeks, which ends up being a lot similar to what Jennifer does, all the way up to multiple years. If a student really just needs that kind of constant monitoring and attention, we'll continue often throughout the high school years and sometimes even through college. Some of my coaches even do Psych, which is the internet online thing with college students, just to kind of help keep them on task at college. Our coaching is done in office, and it's 1-hour sessions for once a week. And often we also do weekly check-ins kind of in between. So that can be email, it can be text message, it can be Facebook, any way that's going to keep the child interested, and so mom and dad doesn't have to be nagging in between sessions. First here is the instrumentation. I'll just briefly talk about first. Intake form is just kind of our background information. The first session, we have mom and dad come in with the student, and we talk to all three, kind of asking some background questions, and then usually kick mom and dad out towards the end just to get the kid one-on-one and make sure they're in agreement with everything mom and dad said. Sometimes you get a completely different story, and they were silent while mom was sitting there, and then they go once she's gone. Informed consent outlines the fact that, again, because we come from a mental health therapist background, we have confidentiality, things like that. So we explain, and we explain to the child too that, look, if we're in the room together and you tell me you went to a party and there was drinking there, I'm not going to go running to your mom and dad. Obviously, we have some cases where we do, if a child says that they're being abused or going to harm themselves, things like that. So we explain all that to the child as well. Our symptom checklist is just a simple yes or no checklist, and this brings me back to the kind of therapy versus coaching thing. It asks things about feeling depressed, feeling anxious, things like that, and what we want to establish here is if we have a kid that says all yeses to those, then that's kind of a red flag, and we think, okay, maybe you do need to get some therapy, maybe in addition to or instead of coaching. So we really want to make sure the client's right. Our coaching topic survey, and I actually have these. I can show you. Every client gets a binder. This is our symptom checklist. Our coaching topic survey, which you can kind of see here, is a Likert type 1 to 5 scale. And this 1, it says do not need to work on. 5 says, do need to work on. 5 says don't need to work on. And then we have a variety of categories. So there are things like improving time management, organizing schoolwork, getting to class on time, paying attention in class, managing long-term assignments, and then also non-kind of academic stuff like doing the laundry, exercising, eating healthfully, waking up and staying up, which is a huge one, getting to bed, which is also a huge one, taking medication, making friends and keeping friends, decreasing negative self-talk, which kind of comes in line with the therapy stuff, managing your stress and anxiety, establishing realistic goals, and then 2 that I think are really important and sometimes undervalued is understanding more about my disorder, because a lot of these kids, and even the parents, honestly, don't have a true understanding about ADHD, and when you don't, what happens is you end up attributing it to the wrong things. So like I said, they'll say, oh, I must just be stupid. So we talk to them about it. We say, you're not stupid. Your brain works differently. And in fact, a lot of them are very creative. I'm sure you know they have tons of strengths. It's just pointing those out to them and how they're kind of special. And then getting support services, which is also something that a lot of parents don't have a full understanding of. And self-advocating with a child, especially a teenager, needs to start to learn advocating for themselves. So if they have an IEP or 504, things like that, going to their teacher and saying, I have this accommodation, I need extra time on my test, things like that. So it can really cover a lot of stuff. Now, what we do next is establish what we call the long-term goals. And this is where we kind of break it down so that it makes sense for the person with ADHD. As you know, their mind is whirling around. They have a difficult time kind of breaking things down into simple steps, and that's where the procrastination comes in, because they can't break it down. It seems too overwhelming, not going to touch it, not going to do it until I have to do it the last minute. So we established 2 to 3 long-term goals. And the important part about those is making them both measurable and process-based. So measurable meaning, let's say you come in and you say, I want to manage my time better. Well, what exactly does that mean? How are we going to prove whether or not you did that at the end of all of this? So we teach them, okay, we need to make it, we can measure from this point to this point. How much did you do? And then process-oriented, meaning I don't like goals that are based on outcomes, like getting an A in a class. Because sometimes a kid can do everything that they possibly can. They're doing their homework, they're studying, and maybe they just get a bad grade on a test, or a teacher's having a bad day and doesn't give them a good grade on a paper. So they don't get that A, and then they feel like a failure. So instead of things like that, we want to say, I want to use an agenda for all my assignments and follow through with those assignments. Did you do it? Yes. Hopefully that'll get you your A. But even if it doesn't, you've done everything that you possibly